Lead me on and be a jerk for a year? Two can play that game. Some backstory first. A while ago, years back, I was in an open relationship and met this guy on Tinder. At first, he seemed amazing. We clicked instantly. It was around Christmas time, and after talking online for nearly 2 months, we decided to meet in person. The first time we hung out was honestly great. I went over to his place, and we spent the night making Christmas cookies, watching Into the Spider-Verse, and just vibing. It was relaxed, fun, and felt like the beginning of something nice. That night, we hooked up, and everything seemed promising. But that's where the good part of this story ends. Not long after, he began acting like a complete jerk. Our conversations, which had been engaging and fun, became one-dimensional. He would only message me if it was about hooking up, and if I tried to steer the conversation toward anything else, he would ghost me. The worst part? He constantly played this ridiculous game of blocking and unblocking me. One moment, he'd disappear completely, and then suddenly he'd come back apologizing, saying he missed me, that he made a mistake, and that he wanted another chance. At first, I forgave him. I thought maybe he just wasn't great at communication and was figuring things out. But when he pulled the same stunt again, I finally told him I was done. I made it clear that his behavior was creepy and I wasn't interested in playing his little disappearing act anymore. Did that stop him? Of course not. Despite me rejecting him multiple times, he kept coming back. He'd message me randomly, testing the waters as if I'd forgotten everything. I, being the overly nice person that I am, eventually just played along with pleasantries but never let him get anywhere close to making a move again. And then, out of the blue, he blocked me again. This time I shrugged it off. I had already moved on emotionally, and frankly, I was relieved to not have to deal with his nonsense anymore. But 2 months later, I received a request from an account I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I accepted it, only to find out it was him, yet again. He immediately launched into some excuse, claiming he never actually blocked me and just stopped using that account. Which, of course, was a blatant lie, considering I could still see his stories on the old account. I called him out on his nonsense, told him to get lost. And his response? A pathetic, "Sorry for wasting your time." You'd think that was the end of it. But no. Fast forward to tonight, about a month and a half since our last conversation. He messages me again. "Hey, are you busy? I miss hanging out." Hanging out? We hung out once. Ever. That was it. And yet here he was, acting like we had this long, meaningful history. At this point, I had absolutely had it. I was sick of him popping back into my life whenever he felt like it. So I decided to turn the tables. I responded sweetly. "Not busy at all. I'd love to come over and pick up where we left off." He took the bait. How he fell for it after I had literally told him to buzz off multiple times, I have no idea. But he did. And I played the part perfectly. I acted like I was getting ready, dropping little updates here and there. Just stopping for gas. Had to pull over to take a call. All the while, I was lying in bed, warm, eating chocolate, and relishing every second of his growing anticipation. He even mentioned that he was taking a shower to freshen up for my arrival. Perfect. After dragging it out as long as possible, I sent the final message. 3 minutes away. Can you come outside? It's dark and I'm a little nervous. He agreed immediately. I waited a few minutes before sending, I'm outside. His response? A video of him. Standing outside, in the cold, in a towel. I could barely contain my laughter. Then came the real punch. I sent him a long message spelling everything out. How I was never actually coming. How he was an idiot for believing me after all the times I told him I wanted nothing to do with him. How I hoped he felt just as humiliated, disappointed, and frustrated as he had made me feel with all his games over the past year. And as the final insult, I told him that I genuinely hoped he never reproduced because the world didn't need more jerks like him. And then I blocked him. But the story doesn't quite end there. My friend, who had been on the phone with me the entire time, decided to have some fun as well. She sent him a friend request, and unsurprisingly, he accepted. After a bit of small talk, he admitted that he had actually hit up multiple people that night, and they had all flaked on him. I was, in fact, his last resort. The absolute best part? He had gone through all that effort, showering, waiting outside in the freezing cold, thinking he was about to get lucky, only to end up cold, alone, and completely blue-balled. The satisfaction? Immeasurable. Look, I'm not saying this was some grand act of justice, but this guy had been one of the worst people I had ever encountered. He had played mind games with me, harassed me across multiple accounts, and even after I had made it explicitly clear that I wasn't interested, he kept pushing. I needed him to understand that he wasn't entitled to my time, my attention, or my patience anymore. And for once, I wanted him to feel the frustration and confusion that he had so carelessly inflicted on me for over a year. And if by some chance he ever stumbles upon this story, I hope he remembers exactly how it felt to stand outside in the cold, waiting for something that was never going to happen. Edit. And for clarification, I did not play this game for years, nor did I let him live rent-free in my head, as some of you seem to think. The cycle went like this. He would message me, I'd block him, and then I'd forget he existed, until he inevitably created a new account and started the whole thing over again. My partner even directly messaged him at one point, telling him to back off, but that didn't work either. This guy was relentless and obsessed. Just to clear up any confusion, I had blocked him multiple times across different platforms, but he was disturbingly persistent. He even reached out to my friends to try and contact me. And yes, he was fully aware that I was married and had a kid. My spouse has been aware of all of this from the start and has tried multiple times to get him to leave me alone. He would just block my spouse in return and then continue harassing me. Before executing this little plan, I consulted my spouse and they fully supported it. After everything this guy put me through, he deserved every second of it. And honestly, I slept like a baby that night.